Welcome to the show, Chaitanya.
Happy to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on All About Marketing. Here we discuss things which are marketing, advertising, branding, business. But today I want to, with you, discuss the intersection of creativity and technology.
Sure.
I'm just back from the AI Impact Summit from Delhi, and I would like to start with the elephant that was there in the room, that's AI and filmmaking.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? How is Whistling Woods looking at AI? How are students looking at AI? And more importantly, because you deal with filmmakers who have honed their craft over decades and who are traditional filmmakers, if I can call it so, and the new age students who are coming with the AI skills, the AI tools at their disposal. What are your thoughts?
Okay. So, let's first just look at AI as a technology. It's not new. It didn't come about in 2022 when Gen AI was kind of first revealed. AI has been around in the industry for many, many years, right? Visual AI is what is keying out photogrammetry. A lot of other aspects have AI has been there in multiple areas, right? So let's not worry so much about that. What we really need to look at is how do you approach it? AI is an excellent tool. It has a tool which has significantly greater function for certain skill sets and certain areas than earlier tools, which is a good thing.
Right.
The way that films are created is that you have essentially three verticals within, or three areas within filmmaking. You have the creative core, which is unchanged. It has remained unchanged for the last, I would say, 100 odd years, right? Narrative skills, storytelling skills, creative aesthetics, art, color theory, ways of seeing, blocking, framing, composition, why, etc., etc., etc. Then you have workflows. Workflows are changing every 5 years.
Right.
They have been changing every 5 years since pretty much the dawn of time. Every 10 years, the filmmaking workflows look indistinguishable from what it was 10 years ago.
Right.
If your workflow is not changed in 10 years, you're doing something wrong, right? And then there are tools. Tools change literally every year. Even if you take the same tool, right? Even if you look at, say, Adobe Creative Cloud, right? Adobe Edit, Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro is not the same today as what it was 10 years ago. It is completely changed. Exactly the same thing happens in AI. So AI has a different workflow and has different tools. The tools in AI are changing even more rapidly because we are in the tech development cycle right now, right? So every 36 months usually you have a tech development cycle, and in those 36 months, crazy amount of activity happens, and then it kind of plateaus for a while. And then something else happens, right? So we are in that cycle, which is why you're seeing a lot of AI tools come up crazily. Also, a lot of workflows are changing, and that's how we're approaching it. There is nothing wrong with using AI in order for creating content. There is nothing wrong with approaching it as a tool, to put it crudely, as a servant. It's here to serve you. The problem is the people who are making AI Malik, sar pe chadha rahe. That's the problem, right? Because it's not that. When you look at so-called traditional filmmakers versus new kids, you can't teach experience. The filmmakers who have been doing content, who have been writing, directing, editing, etc., for years, if you enable them to wrap their head around the technology of the time, the stories they can tell are far more incredible and far better than any new kid who knows the tech very well. Right? So our goal is that. Our goal is dual. Our goal is to make sure that our alumni, existing filmmakers in the industry, we keep an avenue open to them where they can come in and actually learn. So we are launching in the month of April, we will have our first batch of a 4-week applied AI in filmmaking short course, which we are creating primarily for working professionals to help them wrap their head around the technology of the time, while we also integrate it into our curriculum. Right? So that's how we are approaching it. It's not a big deal. As in, it's not something to be scared of, it's something to be welcomed, embraced, and used ethically, used in a more, how should I say, progressive thinking, that this is another workflow in filmmaking, which is fine, which is how it's supposed to be.
So there is more opportunity to tell better stories, to tell stories which earlier couldn't have been told at a certain budget.
There is opportunity to do so much more outside of generative AI. There is so much focus on generative AI that it's becoming a problem for all the other areas. Visual AI. I mean, you were at the AI summit, you said, right? At the AI summit in Hall 5 in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Pavilion, Whistling Woods had been given a booth to showcase a visual AI based markerless motion capture workflow that we have created. Now, mocap is a complicated subject, right? You need bodysuit, you need IR sensors, you need, IR markers, you need sensors, you need that whole ecosystem to make it work. Our team at the Emerging Media Lab, comprising mostly of our alumni, have built out a visual AI-based markerless mocap workflow, where with just one iPhone, shooting RGB, we are able to do real-time motion capture. 4 frames, 6 frames, at max 8 frames delay. So single iPhone, single asset, single computer. So what would normally cost you thousands of dollars is now being able done in hundreds of dollars.
Super.
This is a visual AI-based markerless mocap workflow, which references a pose estimation database and pose estimation algorithm. So there are multiple ways in which AI is used. AI has been used extensively in compression, in encryption, in news aggregation, in visual dubbing, in in animation, in rotoscopy. I mean, thank God, no human will ever do rotoscopy again, right? Humans are never meant to do rotoscopy. Is gada majori, right, of the industry. So outside of Gen AI, there is a lot of use. Yes, Gen AI also exists, and yes, it is out there in the world, but I don't know anybody who's willing to subscribe to a OTT platform or an app which says, oh, I will only serve you AI made short fiction content or AI made fiction content. Nobody will subscribe to it.
Right. There were a couple of those ideas at the AI summit.
Of course there were.
I don't know how they'll land.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I don't see myself subscribing to an AI exclusive short film platform. Yeah, I mean, if Netflix adds in a couple of content pieces around AI, I'll watch it.
Right.
But outside of being a portfolio piece, there is no AI short film that is monetized.
Right.
Now, people are creating dedicated AI film festivals. That's where they are winning awards, right? But if it's just a normal entry, I don't know how many of these will win awards in a regular film festival. So I think we're a little far away from that. And that's all we should do. See, the biggest mistake that a lot of these AI tool making companies are making is they're alienating filmmakers. So if you look at the difference in approach in, say, some of these companies and Google, Google is not doing that. Because Google understands, Google is a media company. Right? So don't alienate filmmakers. Don't tell the world through your marketing message that you don't need to study film in order to make film.
Somehow the hype is that this is not a tool, this is the be all and end all of, anybody can be a filmmaker kind of.
You can't wake up one morning at the age of 45 and just because you know how to use ChatGPT or whatever, X tool or Sora or VO, you're going to become a filmmaker. No, it's not possible. It's like saying I can wake up one morning and because I know Microsoft Word, I'll be a writer. Filmmaking exists long before there were computers and will continue to exist long after there are computers, where we'll all have Neuralink chips in our minds and are able to think images, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. I mean, I understand why a lot of these people are doing this alarmist propaganda in order to sell their product, is because the entire big AI ecosystem has sunk upwards of $1 trillion and a half into hardware and chips and electricity and data centers and platforms and softwares and people, and they need to recover that money, right? So I understand why they're doing it, but a lot of these strategies aren't going to work. They're going to backfire. And the ones who are smart and who are doing it well, they're the ones who are going to be adopted by the filmmaking world in order to make better quality content.
So, Chaitanya, you're passionate about technology, filmmaking. but you don't come from a film background, right? So 20 years ago, if we go back from your days as a commerce graduate, how did Whistling Woods happen?
So yeah, that was actually Whistling Woods has been 20 years. It will
Yeah.
be 20 years 4 days from now.
Wow,
For me.
congratulations.
Yeah. So I started my education. So I did BCom in Sydenham. I was pretty good in school and everything, science, maths, all that. But science nahi padna tha because lazy basically. So Sydenham ठीक ठाक था, commerce relatively light. I did all kinds of extracurriculars, all kinds of festivals, Mood Indigo, Bits Pilani, blah 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 blah, organizing, ye wo, lots of that, right? I used to write in Indian Express as a as a side thing. And then when I finished, a bunch of people were doing CA, a bunch of people were doing MBA. I'm like, हाँ ये ठीक लग रहा है CA तो करते हैं इसको. So I applied to Anderson, I got in, and then now
You're making CA sound like it's so easy to do, right?
it's not, right? So it's
Which means you're good academically.
okay, whatever, yeah, right. Anderson was a fantastic first place to work for anybody. It's very aggressive organization. You either ship up or you ship out. Some people may find it whatever. I've loved it. Right? It got me used to the permanent or semi-permanent feeling or permanently challenged where every single job I've had thereafter, it has always been more than what I know. Right? So every single thing that I do, every single assignment, every single project, everything that I do, I have done. The feeling I approach it with is that I am not prepared to do this. And that's how I think we've end up being able to do whatever we've been able to do, because when you approach something thinking that it's the hardest thing in the world, it actually becomes easy. But when you approach something thinking, ho jayega, aaram se, it's the hardest thing in the world, right? So a lot of that comes from that Anderson, those 3 years. And just the kind of people, the pure genius of brain power that existed among my colleagues, among my seniors. I'm in touch with many of them, so I think it was a great place to work. And unfortunately, it ended because the whole Enron fiasco. And then I wasn't again sure what I wanted to do. So just happened to, through, kind of various, I don't want to get into it because it'll take too long. Through, just one thing happened, another thing happened, and suddenly me and another school friend of mine were in event management and entertainment consulting company, right, which he had founded. And then that was going pretty well for about 3.5, 4 years. And I wanted to do more. And that's when Whistling Woods opened up. They were looking for somebody to launch the school, right? Who is part of on the event side, to kind of do all the on-ground work, right? And that's where I joined, right? And so did that, launched the school, 2 years, everything was going well. I was handling marketing back then, along with Meghna, the president. And then I moved over to the business side, so to run the P&L, grow the P&L, look at new courses, new programs, expanding the footprint of the school, new partnerships. And then Whistling Woods, we decided that tech would become the sharp end of the stick on how we would break through and how we would grow and expand. Right. So 2 years later, I also took over as CTO. Now, I had some experience with tech when we were doing events, because we had started to also do some brand representation in India. So we had launched Hard Rock. We had launched, we had done the first big complex sound installation in Mumbai, which is for Hard Rock, which is a speaker manufacturing company called Martin Audio. It's like very premium speakers. So I had some tech awareness, but again, right? So that was a good learning curve for me. So 2012 to 2014, there was a lot of learning. And then we started to figure out how tech has evolved in the media and entertainment industry, in the film and entertainment space, and how as an institute we should approach it. So that's where all the tech partnerships started, with Sony, with Google thereafter, with Intel, with Apple. Apple, so we had, even when we started, but kind of a reinvigoration of it. We started set up the YouTube space and the YouTube Educator Lab. We wrote the curriculum for content creation, audience development and monetization for YouTube. Before that, we had set up the Sony Media Tech Center to drive digital cinematography in India. Then we set up the VR lab. Geo came on board and funded the VR lab. It became the Whistling Woods Geo VR lab. That then kind of grew into the natural progression into the Emerging Media Lab. We had many more partners in there. So over the last, I would say, 15 years or so, there has been a significant amount of building on top of past successes on our tech journey. So it's now become very, very natural for Whistling Woods to be involved in anything that is emerging tech. So much so that we don't even realize sometimes how much ahead we are of several of our global peers when it comes to film and media education, especially on the tech side.
Sure.
So we've actually noticed that in the last 3 or 4 years, especially after the pandemic. Last year, we actually had a university from the UK who came down to India to do a summer school, a short course on virtual production. Right? So something which actually historically India has been going to the West to do more tech stuff. It's now, right? So whether it's that, whether it's the work we're doing now in AI, whether how we built out an AI doctrine, how we built out the markerless motion capture workflow. So a lot of these things are, I would say, have come from a culture which is that you can never be happy and satisfied with status quo, which is also surprisingly and thankfully the culture of the school of Whistling Woods.
Right.
So, I mean, it seems very different, CA, events, and, film and media education, but it's not really that different, right?
So 20 years later, you can join the dots.
Yeah. It helps, right? Because the chartered accountancy education really helps me with numbers and analyzing data and looking at trends and that whole piece.
Yeah.
The events bit really helps understanding a lot of audience psychology and what is experiential marketing, which is the fancy term that now events is called today, right? Back then it was just called events. And because this was 2003, a lot of people didn't really know what events was, and my grandmother used to think that वो गणपति का पंडाल लगाता है, वो काम करता है. I'm like, yes, which is fine. So that's been the journey. So it's been a very interesting journey. And then what has started to happen over the last, I would say, 10 years is because a lot of these homegrown expertise that happened. See, when Whistling Woods set up, we had a very easy opportunity to just copy-paste a curriculum from the West. UCLA was offering it, USC was offering it. Okay, boss, you become USC or UCLA India, and take our curriculum, take our brand name, and give us X amount of many $1,000 and do it. It would have been easy, but we didn't do that. We built our own brand, we built our own thing, our tech workflows we built ourselves, our curriculum we built ourselves, because we had to Indianize it and it needed to be rooted in India. So with that, what happened was, after I would say 2013-14, a lot of progressiveness started to come in the Indian governmental ecosystem, looking at both education and the media and entertainment industry. Right. So 2013 is when NAC came in, 2015 is when the process for the national education policy started. So, I was one of the many thousand people who contributed to the NEP. 2014 is also when the first idea emerged with the government ke boss, we should look at this industry with a little more seriousness. So then naturally people who are successful in that area were called in saying, boss, aapko kya lagta hai? What do you think? What is, so it's been that public policy, then stuff started to come in. How do you look at public policy? How do you approach it? How do you differentiate it from what you're doing in one small little school, which is very quick and we can move fast, but public policy is for the country as a whole. It's a massive country, so many states. Education is not only a central subject, it's in the concurrent list, so states are also involved. So how do you build that out? The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is actually supposed to run education for media and entertainment. How do they do it? How do you give them inputs? So it's just been a natural evolution, I would say, from one thing to the other.
So growing up, when I used to think of film education, it would always be somebody is going to New York, Lee Strasberg, you're going to LA. As an Indian film school, and now you are completing 20 years, right? What is the unique Indian thing that you have built up? Of course, we are the largest film industry in the world.
Correct.
Right? And while coming over here, I just felt that you're entering Film City. You're going to one of the premier film institutes. But look at the infrastructure, right?
Correct.
I mean, the roads or, everything is getting built in India, right? So in that environment where physically things are just getting built or you have those limitations, technologically being at the forefront, like you said, how did you achieve that? What makes it, if one has to look at a film school in India, what makes it unique and different?
So 2-3 things. One is we make films differently than the rest of the world. The underlying core principle of Indian cinema is a little different from the whole world, right? See,
how is that? Because just song and dance? Or
no, much more than that. So, it's a long answer, but say about a few years ago, many years ago, Spain used to make many more films than they make now.
Okay.
France, Italy, they taught the world filmmaking, right? Godard, Truffaut, Fellini, etc., etc. Today, if you see the number of films being made in France is much lesser than the number of films that were made in France 30 years ago, or Spain, or Italy. UK, same thing. Australia, film industry is pretty much collapsed. Canada, okay, a little bit is there. What has happened is Hollywood has really expanded globally. And they've done very, very well in expansion. So what they've been able to do is they've been able to throw great quality content at these countries and acquire market share without investing in those countries.
Right.
So the local film industries in those countries have started to get hollowed out. So the best talent from Australia sits in LA.
To LA, yeah.
The best talent from Canada sits in LA or the US, right? So, Russell Crowe, Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman, Margot Robbie, all of them. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing with England and England little less because still they do decent industry there. Canada, Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, all of them. Right? Many more. They tried to do the same with India as well. Right? Where after we liberalized, every single large distribution studio, Fox, all of them, they all had distribution offices in India.
Right.
And Hollywood, outside of 1 year where Avengers Endgame released, Hollywood market share in India has never gone up more than 10%. It's never been more than 10%. Right? And back then I would not understand why. I used to audit 20th Century Fox when I was in Anderson, actually. And 20th Century Fox wasn't really making that much money. And I'm like, boss, I love these films. Why is it not working? And now, obviously, when I got into the industry, then I started to understand is we don't make narrow genre specific content. Our films are, the bedrock of the films is the Natya Shastra and the Navras, where the stories move forward as a confluence and conflict of emotions. And hence, in our films, there is everything. So if you look at a horror film out of Hollywood, other than horror, there'll be very little. Maybe little thriller here and there, thoda sex hoga, nudity type. Zyada nahi. In our horror film also, there will be one song.
Stree. Or
Whatever.
Gold series.
Horror, it's horror comedy. But even if you like a horror film, like if you look at Raz, or if you look like at 𝐓𝐡𝐞, there'll be a song, there'll be whatever, right? Because वो श्रृंगार रस जरूरी है हमारी हर स्टोरी में. Without Karuna Ras, sadness, Hasya Ras doesn't come out more. Without Raudra Ras, which is bravery in opposition to Dharma, Veer Ras, which is bravery in support of Dharma, doesn't come out as much, right? And so you need all the... Now, this is just one small aspect. We don't follow the 3-act structure in India of filmmaking, which is beginning, middle and end. We have a 5-act structure. What is the 5-act structure? Why is the construction of the Mahabharata, the Ramayana so different from the construction of Iliad and all of these Odyssey and what Homer wrote, the Greek form of
the Greek
epics. And how have we been able to sustain for decades a story like the Mahabharata, which is 20 times the size of Iliad? So there is something in this, and a lot of it is hardwired into the Indian DNA. We have to teach it to our students because only us can take that tradition forward. Similarly, in China, they have their own way of storytelling. Latin America has its own way of storytelling. Right? So, which is why these are the only 3 industries that have successfully beat back Hollywood. Where even though there is free market access to Hollywood films in India, market share is not. They haven't overtaken us.
Right.
They haven't overtaken China for different reasons, restricted access and all that. Same thing in Latin America. So, this is just one aspect. We have to be able to do high quality academics and high quality technicals in a world where both these are generally expensive in a low per capita income country. So there are a lot of unique things that we have done at Whistling Woods, which when we get a lot of international visitors, they are like, how have we been able to do it? They don't get it. And they ask us, your fees kitna hai? And I'm like, it's X hai. And say, oh, it's like 1/5 or 1/4 of what we charge. It is, right? NYU-Tisch is $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. Our 3-year program is $30,000. So we are still about $12,000 a year. So, I mean, it's just been a combination of ingenuity and just a lot of things. So, yeah.
Sure. And in this 20-year evolution, like when you mentioned films, right? Films were for family viewing. There is a lot less individualism in India, which is why when you look at a film, you want to discuss it with your family, like your parents, your grandmother, your kids. Everybody is going to watch the same film, they're going to consume the same content.
Community
so obviously it is different. But when it comes to a revolution like OTT, which has happened, how has that changed the outlook? Because there the stories
are... best time to be a filmmaker today. You have 5 distinct verticals of content. Cinema is captive community viewing. Right? It is a larger than life audio-visual narrative spectacle where it's community viewing, it's shared viewing experience, and you're captive. You've paid in advance. Right? So the filmmaker has you. Unless it's a really bad film, nobody walks out. Right? That lends itself to a particular kind of content. There is TV, which is non-captive family viewing. That lends itself to a particular kind of content, a particular kind of business model. There is digital content. Digital is the first content consumption platform in the world where you are not being judged for what you watch.
Right.
Because it's individual viewing.
It's one-to-one.
It's individual viewing, right? So, which is why you are... See, everybody has a public life, a private life and a secret life. Your digital content consumption is part of your secret life. So, you don't mind experimenting with different kinds of content, which is why all kinds of content gets created. So, the spectrum of content grows, right? Then you have the creator economy, which is essentially started by YouTube and then expanded, right? where you yourself are both the product and the creator.
Right.
Now you have the attention economy, which is reels, vertical videos, YouTube shorts, micro drama, whatever, right? Where the goal is attention. The goal is not really to tell a very, very complex or a very, very grand or very, very mega story. It is how am I able to get this person's attention for X period of time, which is why they are encouraging the laziness in humans, which doesn't even make them want to turn the phone.
Right.
मतलब उतना भी आलस नहीं तोड़ना है कि हाँ नहीं वर्टिकल में दिखा देंगे हम आपको. Even though that causes its own limitations and a lot of it is just weird and stupid, but okay, whatever, it exists, right? So, if you are a content creator today, there's never been a better time. In India, gaming is exploding, animation is exploding, live events is gone through the roof. If you are a performer, there is no better time to be what is called a triple threat in India. If you can sing, dance and act, you are worth your weight in gold. You will be on stage in NMACC, in Opera House, in NCPA, in Nehru Center, in Ravindranath, everywhere. Right? So, this is the time in which we've kind of expanded as well, where we started with, in 2006, with only film, acting and animation, which is also very prescient because back then, the shortest animation program that exists, the longest animation program that exists in the country was 3 months. And we were doing a 2-year full-time program.
Right.
And everybody broke out. And today it's a 4-year full-time program. Right? So we started with film, acting, animation. Then we expanded. We started India's first MBA in media and entertainment in 2008. 2008 was when our first batch graduated and all the business side people showed up and said, हमारे लिए बच्चे कहाँ हैं? And we're like, oh, हाँ, करना पड़ेगा. So then we launched India's first MBA in media and entertainment. Then in 2013, we decided, we need to do fashion because it's very, very adjacent. So then we launched a fashion program. 2011 first, and then 13 it became a degree. Then we said, okay, now we need to add other areas of. So we added visual communication design. Then we said, okay, music has always been a co-curricular subject for us, but we started to really feel the gap in the Indian music industry. So we said, we need to expand this and make it into a music production and composition program. So then we set up the music production, composition and performance degree program, which by the way, till date is the only bachelor's program on the applied side of music in the country.
Okay.
Right? So that's been the journey. So we're not only a film school anymore, even though nearly half our students are filmmaking students, about 40% of our students are filmmaking students. But we have a large cohort of animation and gaming kids. We have a large cohort of our School of Media and Communication, which we started in 2012, I think, where we did a BBA and an MBA.
Sure.
We have a large group of students in music, in fashion, in visual communication design, so 1100, 1200 students on campus.
And when it comes to your role beyond the school, which is where you are a part of, you are chairing the National Center for Excellence in
I'm on the governing council.
You're on the governing council.
I was the interim CEO, but when it was being set up.
Sure.
But now that it's kind of set up and there's a thing, there's a CEO and all that people, I'm on the governing council.
Right. You're on the governing council. So what's the vision for that and how is that going to pan out over the next?
It started off in 2010 purely as a self kind of serving motive, right? So what started to happen was 2006 we started and 2010 we got rated as one of the top 10 film schools in the world. Now, throughout those 4 years, we've always noticed a lack or a kind of a big disconnect between the kind of applications we were getting from students who had done state board, CBSE, ICSE, whereas the students who are coming from overseas or who had done IB or who had done IGCSE from say Dubai or Europe or wherever, right?
So what percentage of students
So about
are
10%
such?
of our
10%.
student body is
Okay.
non-Indian.
Okay.
10% of the primarily on the film side, but on the other side as well.
Sure.
Right? But about a lot of them are NRIs, a lot of them are not NRIs as well. So we had noticed this big gap, and we had also noticed that our high school education is not as well rounded as it should be. There is way too much focus on science and maths. So if you, before the NEP came up, if you looked at our school curriculum, 60% of it was science and maths. 25% was languages, and 10 to 15% was social studies. So everything that was creative, performing, narrative, all those, that was all extracurricular. The moment you call something extracurricular, the industry loses dignity in the minds of parents and students. Right. Forget importance. Importance to बहुत दूर गया. Dignity भी नहीं रहती.
Yeah, that is not even plan B
Because
of the students,
school,
right?
which is an authority figure in education, is telling you this is extracurricular.
Right.
ये पढ़ाई नहीं है. So our thing was that how can that be? So we in 2010 we got rated as one of the top 10 film schools in the world. तो थोड़ा attention वगैरह मिला. Everybody woke up and said, यार कौन है ये लोग, कहाँ से आए हैं? So we had an audience with key people in the government. I don't want to mention who. And then we were like, please, I mean, you need to do something about this. And they're like, yeah, but we've tried to write the curriculum and then we couldn't really succeed. So we said, we'll write it for you. So we actually wrote the curriculum for the CBSE board for the 11th and 12th grade for media studies as an academic elective.
Okay.
And they said, no, tender. And I said, paisa mat do. So we wrote it and gave it to them, right? Okay. Then we did a 2010 to 12, we did a pilot project with 15 schools where that was being taught and implemented. So we did some teacher training and that implementation hand-holding. So that was the first foray into some kind of public policy, right? Then we had some contributions to the NEP. But the big thrust actually started to come in 2018, I would say. Yeah, 2018, where the initial kind of conversation started around the country should have a national policy for animation, visual effects, gaming, comics. तब XR नहीं था, तब immersive नहीं था. And we said, yeah, we should. There should be, right? So then, kind of FICCI frame seminar में बात करो, CII में बात करो. Hopefully there is some bureaucrat there. Hopefully there is a minister there and थोड़ा traction होता है. So slowly it built up. And then in 2022, when the Dubai Expo happened, at the pavilion there was a very nice round table with the minister, with the secretary, MIB and a few other people. That's when I think the first time a serious thing happened कि अच्छा ये होना है. And then the task force was formed.
Okay.
Right? So in the budget announcement, they announced the setting up of the task force for, and there I was invited to join the task force, and I was asked to be the convener of the education subsection. So the task force had 5 sub-task forces. Right. So there was education, skilling, policy, something 5. So I said, education, I was the convener. So that is where I really understood consultation. How do you reach out to the industry? How do you take their inputs in? How do you make sure that there isn't groupthink? That if all 20 people who are part of the committee are all thinking the same thing, it's not always a good idea, right? So let me go and find somebody who has a different school of thought, just to hear them out. Or let me find 5 other people who have a different school of thought. The school of thought may not be considered, but at least you should hear it out. Right? The group thing is very dangerous. So that happened. And then with that, the September 2022, the report came out. And 23 is when the government said, okay, we will accept this. The cabinet looked at it, the cabinet approved it. And then before anything would happen, the next elections came up, right? 24. So then everything kind of went on hold for a year. And then 25, the IICT, which is the Indian Institute of Creative Technology, was launched.
Right.
Which was back then called the National Center of Excellence for Animation, Visual Effects, Gaming, Comics. Which was one of the suggestions in the policy, in the national policy. Right?
Right.
There are many other suggestions. One of them has come in the budget this year. So that's how I got involved in IICT. So I was the first interim CEO. And kind of just through the company setup and just getting it going, and the interim campus, which is in NFDC. So, yeah, I mean, it is taking time away from Whistling Woods to do this. And thankfully, Subhash Ji and everybody and the board was like, yeah, okay, this is important work, right, for the country. Some of the other things which we had put in the policy, one of them got approved this year in the budget, is the setting up of the content creator labs in 15,000 schools and colleges. So that is also our policy recommendation. Wow. So in fact, that was one of the big ones that I had shepherded along with another gentleman called Ashish Kulkarni. Both of us the ones who were really pushing it, saying, boss, ye bahut zaruri hai, because this is where you create a well-rounded 12th grader who understands physics as much as understanding Natya Shastra, right? Who understands manga as well as understanding Madhubani. So that is where, so I mean, that's how public policy has happened.
Great. So, coming to your interests beyond films and beyond technology, food, right?
As you can see.
Okay. So, yeah. So, could you tell us, like, what are the other things that you are interested in?
So, obviously, film, cricket, sport in general, but cricket, Formula One primarily. Cricket, though, I think खून में है. Where I was born, it's a cricket-rich society. Right? So for the first 26 years of my life, Sachin Tendulkar was my neighbor.
Wow.
So, and I mean, Ajit still stays there. Ajit is still my neighbor. So that was, I mean, even if Sachin hadn't been a great cricketer, that love for cricket would have been there.
Any interesting incident about Sachin?
Oh, so many. Many. I mean, he's 6 years elder to me, 5 years elder to me, 5, 6 years elder to me. So, didn't really play that much in the society, but yeah, somewhat, right? Lots of birthday parties together.
कभी out किया
lots
सचिन
of
को?
photos. नहीं.
नहीं.
मैं उस टाइम पे, I mean, वो so see, in a society you have that even 5-6 years at that age of, you know,
a big gap.
Between
Yeah,
10 and 16 is a big gap, right? And also you are the जाके fielding करो वाला scene, बाद में end में batting मिलेगा types, right? वो था, which is okay. It's not like I was anyway a great cricketer or anything. I just love the game. So cricket है, थोड़ा बहुत Formula One है, थोड़ा बहुत other, you know, general, थोड़ा बहुत hockey है, थोड़ा बहुत basketball है, थोड़ा बहुत.
I researched a bit about your acting career. So you have
no,
to tell me
career
about
तो
it.
नहीं बोल सकते, but see, when your boss is Subhash Ghai, why will you not take advantage of that? Right? So he was making a film called 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and in that there was a role of a Interpol officer. So I'm like, sir, he said, हाँ, तुम Interpol officer बनोगे. Very good. So I was Interpol officer. I had like 3-4 dialogues, 30 to 60 second total appearance, right? And then the sorry, that was a film called Black and White, not
Black and White. Okay.
Black and White, right? Which also launched, you know, Anurag Sinha, who's now done a fantastic job in Taskari, by the way, as the main bad guy. Right, not main bad guy, second bad guy. Or actually good guy turned bad guy. Anurag and a few other people were there. So I had very chota role in Black and White. Then in the next film which he was doing called 𝐓𝐶, I was demoted to be CBI officer.
Okay.
So I'm like, sir, क्या किया मैंने, मतलब Interpol officer, CBI officer, he like चुपचाप करके काम करो. I'm like, okay. So उसमें भी ऐसे ही कुछ 2-3 dialogues थे. Then there's another film which a bunch of Whistling Woods alumni were making, where there was a role of a wedding manager, wedding planner. तो वो था, मतलब वो 2-3 मिनट, 3-4 मिनट का रोल था. वो इंटरवल का के पहले जो एक हाईलाइट सीन होता है ना,
हाँ,
जिसके
हाँ,
बाद इंटरवल होता है.
हाँ.
So वो मेरा सीन था,
Wow.
right? So that was a big deal.
हाँ.
So yeah, that is my acting career. But unfortunately, with Google and all that, when people type my name on Google, the first thing that comes up is
in
actor.
IMDb, yeah.
Is IMDb an actor, which is really, I am not. I cannot act to save my life, right? So yeah, that's the career that she's talking about.
But any favorite Subhash Ghai film?
Meri Jung.
Meri Jung. And any one film which you feel is didn't get the kind of credit that it should get? Good film, but
So actually, there is an outstanding film both in Yade and Kisna. There is an outstanding film in there. There's some amount of like extra fluff in there. But in both those, there's a really, the kernel is really good, right? And I think that could have been, I don't know whether it was marketing or how or what, or I mean, that was where I thought both those films should have done better than they did, right? Both Yade and even though Yade did very well, but I still thought it could have done better, right? And Kisna both. So I thought both those were very good films.
good. Yeah, you spoke about marketing, film marketing. How important is it for success today? Like,
Very important.
do students get taught about marketing
Yeah,
their idea as well?
Huge part of our MBA. So many of our alumni are working in the industry in film marketing. See, I mean, I just few days ago I was talking to somebody about someone's asking me, "21 कितनी अच्छी picture है, but चली नहीं, right? Didn't really do that well." I'm like, it's a marketing problem. It was sold as a war film. It's not a war film. It is an excellent film.
Right.
Shriyam Raghavan is a brilliant director.
Yeah.
A brilliant filmmaker. I mean, genuine genius. But at some point, they put it forward as a war film. It's not a war film. Yes, Arun Khetrapal is there. Yes, his bravery is there. Yes, it's mentioned. But the kernel, the core of the film is a love story between Dharmendra and Jaideep Alawat. Like a platonic love story. Right? Between Dharmendra's character and Jaideep Alawat's character. It's about two men who both love their country but who also deeply respect the skill and the art of war and of what a professional army and professional fighting force is supposed to look like, right? It's them getting to know each other and kind of accepting each other in a respect, love. That's the film. And that's such a sweet and that's such an outstanding part of the film. But unfortunately, all the trailers, all the marketing, everything was about
the poster.
tank bottle.
Yeah.
And I was like, boss, tum kar kya rahe ho? After I saw the film, I'm like, you had such a good opportunity to really bring some nuance into the marketing communication. So I don't know whose choice was that. But that is something I would say. And then on the other end, you have, people who just get it bang on right? Like I remember the first teaser that launched for Gadar 2. Trailer or teaser. So I remember one scene in there where all these people are running towards Sunny Paji and Sunny Paji is standing there. And all he does is just looks at the hand pump. He doesn't he just looks at it and then all at other run away. That's the film.
Yeah.
Super hit. 100% advance booking.
Right.
Just on that one trailer, teaser, whatever you want to call it. Right. Now that is genuine marketing and brand recall and just genius. He doesn't ukhado it. He doesn't do anything to it. All he does is he stands and he just looks at the hand pump. And the institutional memory of this mad
One
Sardar
scene,
ukhadoing the hand pump and killing a bunch of Pakistani people was so deeply ingrained in the Pakistani psyche of the people who are rushing towards him that they all run away saying, boss, marenge, bhago. So, it's got nothing to do with, and it's not like this trailer was very slick or it had all.
It's not a polished.
It was not. It didn't need to be.
Yeah.
So, some of these things are fabulous, right? So, on how to kind of manage the emotion. I mean, Yashraj also, as mentioned, this Rocket Singh is a genuinely great film.
Right.
But it was sold as a comedy. Sardar, funny, comedy, ye wo. It's not. It's a serious film, which is one of the best songs ever made with, Pankho ko hawa zara si lagne do. And what Ranbir has done in that movie is incredible. But people go in with a particular mindset. People go in expecting X and they get Y. So they get irritated. Ye kya hai? And by the time they've genuinely started to like the film, it's over. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are so many examples, long list of examples I can give you.
Right, right. And how did you become a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which is the Oscars?
Correct.
How did that happen?
So, actually, what started to happen was when we started to do a lot of emerging tech work, we realized that if we have to learn more and more about this, we have to go out and see what's happening in the world. So then I started attending these two major media and entertainment technology conferences that happen in the world called IBC and NAB. IBC happens in September in Amsterdam, NAB happens in April in Vegas. And while attending it, started to reach out to panelists, started to reach out to people who are there saying, we're doing this thing in VR, we've done this thing with Sony, we've done this thing, blah, blah, blah. Can you come in and help us? And then, obviously some people would come and when the Geo thing came in, we had little budgets to fly a few people down. So then some of them actually started to see what great work we're doing. And then I was asked to be on one of the panels, right, as a speaker. And that was a panel where I was essentially talking up the Indian media and entertainment industry, film industry, education, what we're doing.
Right.
And then that kind of, I think, went well because then I was asked to be on the panel at IBC as well. Right? So first NAB, IBC, and then NAB. So for the last 9 years, I have been on panels at NAB and IBC every year. So one of those panels I was on was a SIMT panel, and then kind of started to get more involved in SIMT, and we hosted the SIMT standards meeting here in Mumbai. We kind of helped set up the SIMT chapter. Then SIMT launched a special initiative, Rapid Industry Solutions, to focus on virtual production. So we got then involved as part of that. I was invited to join the SIMT Board of Governors in 2021 and also be part of the Rapid Industry Solution on on-set virtual production, where me along with a professor from Rochester Institute of Technology, both of us were heading the education subsection for that, for the RIS. And with that, then what started to happen was that, more work happened and more work happened. And then in 2024, me and Whistling Woods, we were awarded the SIMT Excellence in Education Medal. It's the first time an Indian had ever got it, right? And I mean, it was quite like an important thing, an important achievement for the school. And more importantly, it let us know that we are on the right track, right? What we're doing is good. And then I was nominated for the Academy, both by the then president of SIMT, as well as the lady who was heading the Rapid Industry Solutions Initiative, Carrie. So Renard and Carrie had nominated me, and I mean, not everybody who gets nominated gets invited. So June last year, I got the invite to join the Academy in the production and technology branch, right, which is one of the newer branches of the Academy, and it's also the branch that focuses on a lot of emerging technology where it's being used in production. And along with that, then I was also invited to be part of the jury, the voting
Oscar
jury, right? And then depending on which categories you are eligible for, how many films you have seen, how many, you then kind of get that eligibility of, okay, if you've seen all these films, you have to go on the Oscar site, see them, or Mark has seen, and this time, that. So based on that, you get your eligibility list. So this time I'm on 19 categories.
Wow.
So 26th is when the final voting starts. So I was part of the preliminary voting and the second preliminary voting. So
right.
Yeah, so it's been a great experience. I watched a lot of films since August, over 100 films. And we've had 2 or 3 meetings of the production and technology branch. Abhi to I am backbencher, first year, so seekh rahe, learning. But it's important for the country, it's important for Whistling Woods, it's important that the work we're doing in education and tech is recognized and that we are able to put it forward to the academy and to the world, saying, boss, hum ye kar rahe hain. But I mean, it's also, Whistling Woods' rise is also kind of coincided with India becoming more prominent globally with all the Academy Award wins, with, I mean, the year Whistling Woods was conceptualized is the year when Lagan really broke through.
Yeah.
And over the last, I would say, few years, whether it's Rahman, whether it's Keeravani ji, whether it's Sukhi, whether it's Gulzar Saab, whether it's Payal, Guneet, we've really done well at that stage, right? Whether it's Priyanka genuinely breaking through. So I think it's just kind of, we've had a lot of tailwinds. So I would say there's some of that as well.
Sure.
I'm regularly afflicted by the imposter syndrome where I'm not so sure whether it's just right place, right time, कि हमने कुछ किया भी है, मैंने कुछ किया भी है, पता नहीं, but पता नहीं है, जो है सो है, it's there, so I'm happy.
Is it still difficult to market a film school education in India?
Not really.
Not really.
No. What is difficult is to make sure that people understand what happens in film education. Because it doesn't happen in school education. See, you don't need to tell parents medical education में क्या पढ़ाते हैं. Because you learn chemistry, biology in school. So you understand. That is the foundational education. That's the building blocks of higher education in medicine. Because you teach physics, chemistry, maths in school, those are the building blocks for higher education in engineering.
Right.
There is no education of creative and performing arts, or what we call Lalit Kala. Foundational education in Lalit Kala, right? So how will then people know? How will parents know? Which is why this setup of content creator labs in schools and colleges is so important. Which is why it's super critical that you match that with academics and you create that space in the curriculum where we are able to teach foundational education in narrative arts, critical thinking, design thinking, spatial thinking, and make sure that Indian folk arts and stories and music and all is as much a part of students' life as physics is or languages are, right? So that's what I would say.
And when you compare the kids who today would be working in the industry, who joined in 2006 in the early batches, to the students who are coming right now, what's the difference that you see over a 20-year period?
So in some ways they're still the same. There is still some level of lack of clarity, which is just an age thing, right? There is, the passion is the same. I don't think the passion levels have changed. It is much harder to be a student today than it was 20 years ago. Many more distractions. But that also, it's also easier to be a student today because technology is just so easy.
Are they more aware of world cinema?
They are hyper-informed, I would say. Not necessarily of world cinema, but they are generally hyper-informed. So because you are hyper-informed...
Which is a good thing or
again,
not so good?
It's both, right? So when you have too much information without wisdom, no 16-year-old is ever wise. I was an idiot at 16, right? So, but when you have so much hyper information at the age of 16, your analysis of that information can go in very weird ways.
Right.
And a lot of kids are afflicted by that through no fault of their own, right? So, wo hai, but On the flip side, the hyper-informed student has also figured out much earlier in life what they want to do. Even though they may end up changing their mind, at that point they are quite sure. Right? So there is still that lack of clarity, but there is also this weird sureness, but there is also hyper-informed. I don't buy this Gen Z bashing at all. The 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐀𝐈 Media Lab, which hopefully you will get a shot of soon. I am the oldest person in the lab by 20 years. Right? So as part of CTO, I'm also head of the emerging media lab.
Right.
There's another industry professional who's about 15 years younger to me. And everybody else is less than 25 years of age. 12-hour days are normal for them. If there is a problem that they have to crack, if there is a technology that they have to solve, if there's something they're doing, they'll be there for days, 2 days.
Right.
Right? And so I don't buy this thing that they are lazy, that they don't want to work hard, that they want the easy way out. Completely wrong. If you give students of today a goal, and if you give them freedom in the path they will take in order to achieve that goal, and give them guidance if and when they ask for it, they are perfect.
Right.
It's when one of these three things messes up. Either they don't have a goal that they like or is very clear, or you tell them, nahi, ye aise hi karna hai. Right? Or if they come and ask you, you're like, nahi, figure it out on your own. Sometimes you have to say that also, but you need to know when to say that and when not.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that combination. And I mean, honestly, just like every year the student cohort evolves, even we evolve. Right? Even we learn. So I just say, I mean, yeah, there is a lot of difference, but there's no difference also.
Right.
So,
and how difficult is it for a professor, a teacher to hold the attention now? Because as compared to 20 years ago, now the kids are far more informed. Do they
you have to be a
feel that?
much better teacher today. Actually, no. You have to be a much better communicator today. You have to have your own teaching skill set needs to be significantly better than what it was, right? Your subject matter expertise obviously have to be good. But say 20 years ago, if your subject matter expertise, you were like 90 on 100. And teaching skills, you were 50 on 100. Chal jata tha. Ab your teaching skills also have to be 80 on 100.
Right.
And your subject matter expertise needs to be 95 on 100.
Of course.
Right? So I think that's one change, which is actually a good thing. Because just because you're a good cinematographer doesn't make you a good teacher of cinematography.
Right.
I mean, Gary Kirsten was a good batsman. He wasn't the best batsman in the world at the time. But he was the best one of the best coaches India has ever had. Right? And, somebody from the Indian cricket team, not Sachin, but somebody from the Indian cricket team once mentioned, some party kuch ho raha tha, I said, no, how was the working equation between Sachin and Gary? Because they were competitors. They actually played against each other, right? And he's saying, the only thing that would have stopped a Sachin Tendulkar from being the natural leader and the natural mentor to the team is somebody telling him that he had to do it. The best thing Gary Kirsten did was he did not tell him that he had to do it. He respected him enough to know that he knows that he has to do it. Right? So then it became ownership. So Sachin took ownership of the team. Even though he wasn't the captain and nobody asked him to. Right? So just that role, if a teacher plays today, that is really what they need to do with students. They need to be that natural guide, mentor, shine the light on the path, and encourage kids to maybe you want to go this way, right? Rather than saying ये path है इधर ही जाओ. तो वो not every faculty is able to do it. Some people still are unwilling to see. There's a whole thing about commanding respect and demanding respect. So, like when I was in school, a lot of my teachers were demanding respect.
Right.
And they weren't really commanding respect, and I don't remember them fondly now. I remember the ones who commanded respect hugely fondly.
Right.
Reach out to them, meet them, whatever. Right. So I think that's the big difference. That tolerance for people who demand respect is zero or whatever, reduced, greatly diminished.
And working with somebody like Subhash Ji, when you have been a filmmaker for so many years and now getting into film education along with his daughter, what are the things that you have seen evolve in him over the last 20 years?
Oh, so many things. His ability to grasp emerging tech, his ability to grasp emerging forms of content. I mean, in addition to my role in Whistling Woods, I'm also the business head of SGM, which is the newly set up division of Mukta Arts,
right,
focusing on animation and games. So just how enthused SG is, Subhash Ji has been, I mean, we call him SG. Subhash Ji has been with embracing new tech, all that kind of thing. We have, when we are setting up an emerging media lab, one of the projects we did was we made the Kumbh in VR. The 2019 Kumbh we shot in VR.
Right.
He directed it in a way. I mean, because it was a documentary, so we hundreds of hours of Kumbh footage, or some 60 hours of Kumbh footage. We had to choose the shots, how do you put it together, how do you create the timeline, what do you say, the VO, all that. So he played a big role in that, right? So that was there. So that is something which is great. He's also had a very strong understanding of messages that are conveyed through images. So for example, if you walk around the campus, you'll see all the students wearing a Whistling Woods t-shirt. We have a uniform. We are a higher education creative school that has a uniform. Right? Which is very antithetical typically to creativity should be free and you don't put wrong. Creativity prospers the best when you give it direction. Right? Now, 2-3 things. One is, we have students who come in Mercedes and we have students who come in auto rickshaws. We have students who come from NGOs, we have students who come from various strata of society. So this becomes a great leveler.
Right.
That's one. Second is, it helps build the sense of family. We are all individuals, but we are part of a larger goal, mission, vision, whatever you want to talk about, right? That. Third one was actually industry told us, right? So film industry has historically been looked at as very undisciplined, very unorganized, very अच्छा सुबह 7 बजे के शिफ्ट के लिए दोपहर के 2 बजे आएंगे, that kind of mindset, right? And this is a filmmaker, very, very, very reputed, who's one of India's best blockbuster Hindi film directors, told us this. He had come for a master class and he saw an auditorium full of Whistling Woods students all wearing the t-shirt. And he's like, बाकी कुछ इनको आता हो या ना हो, इतना मुझे पता है कि इनको डिसिप्लिन आता है और इनको ये समझ में आता है कि प्रोफेशनलिज्म क्या होता है, right? And so just some such thing, like when Whistling Woods opened, he wanted the uniform and none of us, Meghna, Rahul, none of us, nobody wanted a uniform. We are like, sir, kya kar rahe ho? Like, and we've all come around to it, right? So that visionary aspect you keep. So, that is where if he says something that even it sounds outrageous at first, now we have learned to kind of, okay, just give it some time, some of it works out, some of it doesn't work out, right? But, that is quite important and that is quite critical. So, things like this, his, Meghna, the culture that she has set in for the school, right? Which is of never being satisfied with status quo, of never compromising on, I mean, the being reasonable is the shortest, swiftest and surest path to mediocrity. So Whistling Woods it's sometimes, I mean, if you work with me, if you work on the emerging tech side, it is exhausting. Because at least outsiders tell us that, right? That you're like, how do you do this? It looks exhausting to us because we are never settled. We are never stable. वर्चुअल प्रोडक्शन वर्कफ्लो जैसे ही ठीक होता है एआई में काम चालू है. एआई जैसे ही सभी थोड़ा थोड़ा सेटल डाउन होना शुरू हो रहा है. वी ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन Web3. वी ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन बिल्डिंग आउट एआई एप्लीकेशंस एंड दिस. वी ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड वर्किंग on other things, right? So this perpetual thirst, hunger, this drive for this is culture. Right? We have an excellent interpersonal skills and approach culture on campus. We have a very, very low attrition rate in our organization.
Attrition in the staff or students?
In both.
Both.
Right? So students is we have a very unique, so the first year, about 5 to 7% of students will either drop out or fail out. After the first year, it is 0. Not 0%, 0.
Zero.
For a 4-year course. Is very unique, right? We are heavily rigorous, very, very rigorous, and very, very focused, and give students as much freedom as possible. So again, rigorous and freedom is kind of, but it is, right? So there is a lot that they have to do. Creatively, they have full freedom to do it. But they have a lot of assignments, they have a lot of submissions. So we put a lot of pressure on them. Not everybody can take it. This is what we do is the reality of the industry. A lot of people have this idea in their head of what media and entertainment education is like, right? So a lot of people like the idea of being a director. Actually don't want to be a director. Because मेहनत करना पड़ता है उसके लिए. ऐसे तुम, you can't show up one morning and say, I'm a director now, right? You can't show up one morning and become Shah Rukh Khan. So, what the hell is this? So what happens is that even though in our selection process we try and cull out, suss this thing out, thoda to students get through, right? Okay, they're able to, because in 15-20 minute, half an hour interview, really how much can you gauge? They are the ones who show up here and like, boss, बहुत काम करना पड़ रहा है यार, तो बहुत difficult है. हमको लगा कि मतलब difficult science वगैरह नहीं करना है, इसलिए आके acting करो या filmmaking करो, time pass करेंगे, camera ऐसे करेंगे, हो जाएगा. Right? So they are 6 months to 1 year. Either they come to their senses and then they come back the next semester, or they drop out. Right? After that, it's 0. So, just building this kind of academic rigor, this is where Rahul also comes in, who's our director academic. So, SG, Subhash Ji, Meghna, Rahul, myself, this is the kind of thing. There's Ravi Gupta, who's our dean and executive director. He's been in the industry for, 50, 60 years now. He was the GM and MD of NFDC. He set up the global B4U network. He was as a CEO, as a global CEO. So he's really able to give us a lot of guidance. The executive director of Mukta, the finance director of Mukta, Parvez Farooqi, he's able to, because they understand the film industry deeply to the core. So, we've had a lot of mentorship ourselves from a lot of these seniors. And yeah, so I would say it's been a fun journey.
A quick few personal questions. So, do you find the time to watch movies after a day here? Yeah.
I watch 3 films a week.
And what kind of genres?
Anything.
OTT?
Yeah. OTT.
Something
TV,
good
film.
that you watched recently?
I saw Taskari. I thought it was really good. Taskari was really good. I saw a show. I'm starting to watch the third season of Night Agent, the fourth season of Lincoln Lawyer, or the third season? No, fourth season. Fourth season of Lincoln Lawyer, third season of Night Agent. Yeah. So अभी ये चल रहा है.
Okay.
I'm reading. I'm reading a book written by, I forget the name, Pratik something his name is. It's a very not practical I would say, but it's a very informative exposition of the basics of Sanatan Sanskriti.
Okay.
Right? So I'm just reading that. I mean, I would know some of it, most of it, because I've read all the other stuff. But just to read it, so if I can, if it's good enough, I'll give it to my kids also to read. थोड़ा पढ़ो, see where you come from. तो चल रहा है, कुछ चलता रहता है. तो Kindle पे एक usually book आधा होता है. Kindle is for time pass reading, right? Books are for serious reading, and then films. Also, then once in a while, once in a couple of weeks, there'll be a Whistling Woods alumni film that has some premiere on a Thursday or something. फिर उधर जाके वो देखना होता है. Oscars का भी सब पिछले 4 महीने में 100+ films देखा है, तो वो थोड़ा overdose हो गया. करना पड़ता है.
Right.
You have to see. And still there are 3 categories which I am not eligible for because I have not been able to see all of them, which is documentary, docu-short, and 1/3 category which I forget. And I'm like, boss, और नहीं देख सकता.
Your favorite genre of films?
Actually, everything. There is no. I am an ideal viewer. I like all kinds of cinema. Even if a film is 30% good, I like it. Right?
Does the same happen for food? Or you're choosy when it comes to...
No. Yeah, well, yes and no. Some things I don't like, right? Some things I genuinely think should be like banned.
A dish that you can have anytime.
नहीं, I need change.
You need change.
I need change. So वो ऐसे एक चीज नहीं हो सकता. But something should be
any
like
favorite.
There is a green vegetable in Marathi. We call it shepu.
Shepu, okay.
The farmers who grow it should be charged with creating weapons of mass destruction. Right? So that is for sure.
But somehow it ends up in the household. I don't know how. And once in a month at least.
You can smell it from 1 kilometer away.
Apart. Yeah.
I will turn the car off niche, and when I'm walking up the stairs, I'm like, damn. But anyway. So yeah, I mean that, and then there is some like. I'm not a big fan of this whole क्या बोलते हैं वो matcha business, right? Which my daughter loves. So ये अभी matcha जमा नहीं है अभी तक मेरे को. Green tea भी थोड़ा ठीक है. Some are okay, some are. I didn't really.
Have you tried
I don't
bubble
really
tea?
understand the point of green tea, but okay.
Have you tried bubble tea?
Yeah. Boba.
Boba you have
it's
tried.
Okay. It's like क्या होता था पहले वो they would they would put like kheer. Kheer they would put something.
Those sabudana.
Kind of like that, but whatever, fancier and 10-25 times more expensive. So,
because this is all about marketing, I would ask you, a person who markets himself well?
Elon Musk.
Okay.
He has no filter. And he doesn't try to dumb things down. He doesn't try and tell the person sitting in front of him what he thinks that person wants to hear. According to me, that's the best marketing.
Being real, honest, yeah. A country which markets itself well?
The US. I mean, when McDonald's opens in India, there's a long line to eat low quality, extremely toxic, trash food, right? When Dunkin' Donuts opens, Dunkin' Donuts is fried maida with preservative laden sauce on top of it.
Sugar and maida.
Right? And this is like a line. And the first Dunkin' Donut didn't even open in a fancy sobo place. It opened in Market City, Kurla, and there was a line. What the hell? Right? So, yeah, I mean, just look at how they've sold Americanism to the world under the guise of cool. And, you know, honestly, that's what I want to do. In Vada Pav, much better than burger. Jack and Coke is not a patch compared to Old Monk and Thumbs Up.
Right.
We should do.
We should have cans of Old Monk and Thumbs Up available.
Right?
Yeah.
See, we've done it with food. There cannot be a global food event without Indian food. We've done it with yoga. We've done it with Ayurveda. There cannot be a global wellness retreat, whatever, without there being yoga and Ayurveda.
Right.
But so why not in other areas, right? So how do we use the media and entertainment industry to sell Indianness to the world? So like you've got whatever, I don't know how many thousand McDonald's we have all across India. Why don't you have so many Patil Vada Pavs all over North and South America? Right? Why don't we have, I don't know, mini Punjab all across everywhere, right? So there has to be, you have to sell that brand to Indianness to the world. I know someone done it very well.
I know someone who opened a Sri Krishna Vada Pav 12-15 years ago in UK, and now he has 14 outlets.
Super hit.
14 outlets.
Of course. So I think we have to, not just that, right? Just, I mean, now you're starting to see a lot of that discovery happening through, you know, look at what we've invented. The number zero, you know, mathematics, surgery, stuff that the West tries to kind of steal from us, like, what? Turmeric latte, haldi doodh. What is they call it? Rhythmic cardiac breathing, which is pranayama. तो बात करो इसके बारे में यार. So, you know, I mean, mathematics, one of the best works, the most complicated, detailed works in mathematics is an Indian poem. It's a book called Leelavati, which is written by Bhaskaracharya. His daughter's name was Leelavati, and he was trying to explain mathematics, complicated mathematics theorems to her, and he wrote it in poetry form. I mean, he was that much of a genius. Forget about all the political stuff. Veer Savarkar had written 25 books before he turned 26. Look at I live in a society, the society where I live, it's 80 flats. 80 families, 86 flats, right? So the Marathi Sahitya Sammelan is a big deal. Akhil Bharatiya Marathi. So be a president of that is like a big deal, right? We have had 13 presidents of Marathi Sahitya Sammelans. We have 3 Sahitya Academy Awards.
This is Sahitya Savas.
We have 3 Sahitya Academy winners, award winners. We have 3 Sangeet Natak Academy Award winners. We have had 1 Padma Shri, 1 Padma Bhushan, 1 Padma Vibhushan, 1 Jnanpith Awardee and 1 Bharat Ratna. तो इधर जब तुम रहते हो तुम बाहर कुछ भी करके आओ, कितना भी अवार्ड, कुछ भी बड़ा, कुछ भी मिले, when you come into the society you are a
nobody.
I said a word which starts with C, but whatever, you are. So it's a great leveler, right? So I mean, just things like this.
Awesome, great. Any advice that you would have for marketers, especially with what's happening in cinema?
Observe, right? Just observe stuff around you, and it'll really help. It'll really help you to just understand the world better. You understand the world better, you understand how to communicate with the world better. Wait, there's 2 parts to it. Right?
Sure.
Never compromise on your values, but don't be so adamant that you won't change your mind. If facts change, your mind. Yeah? If you don't change your mind, do you even have one? Right? So, just that, and just observe. The more you observe, the better marketer you'll be.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chaitanya, for thank you.